What's up, everyone? We're back here on back-to-back days. It's pretty rare for me to do that, but I have some plans this weekend. Actually, with my guy Stats. What's up, man? Shorter Wednesday night slate. This is much more relaxing than our 15-game Fridays here. What's going on?
Yeah, I was going to say this is the antithesis of what we had last week, right? With Friday, but I will be with you this weekend and some others here at RPS. We got the live final up in Twin Cities, Minnesota, for golf, so that'll be fun. Are you playing? Are you bringing your clubs? We got a little golf outing they're putting together too. DraftKings.
I am not playing. I figured someone should stay back and babysit JBC during the day.
That is a good idea.
Just to make sure that everything's on the up and up. I also have another friend who's going who doesn't play, so I'm sure we'll find some stuff to do throughout the day. Maybe hit some breweries or something. And actually, I was texting him earlier about possibly checking out the Twins game. They play a night game Friday night. So yeah, it should be a fun weekend.
It's supposed to be a nice stadium. I've never been over there, but
I've never been to Target. I've heard awesome things. I don't know how far it is from where we'll be staying, but
it shouldn't be too far because we're just outside. We're just outside Minneapolis, and I think it's in Minneapolis. So
yeah, I've actually never been to that area at all, and I'll be there this weekend. I'm actually going next weekend too for a baptism. So never been, and then going to be back to back weekend. So
it's some of the nicest people in the world in that part of the country. I gotta admit. Well, where you are too. I mean, Illinois, maybe not in Chicago so much, but Illinois, the people are awesome. Wisconsin, just really nice people.
Known that I hang out with, but yeah, I know I've seen them. I've seen them around. We got Parker in the chat. No, we need the winners from you, Parker. Good friend here in Chicago, amazing DFS player. All right, we got 5 games here. Early slate just wrapped up. The game at Wrigley, 12 runs in that one, I believe, but still kind of a dud. We've got an interesting 5-gamer here. Pitching is a bit tough across the board. I'm interested to see where you landed. Since it's only 5 games, we can spend a little bit more time on each one and not fire through them like we had to on Friday, where I don't even remember half of the games that we talked about. We were going through them so fast. But yeah, we do have an earlier start here. We got 6:40 Eastern because there are less games. They're adding that Cleveland game. We'll start there. My Orioles are in town. Rough season for Baltimore. Pitching has just not come along, but they do get one of their starters back today. Zach Eflin is back from the IL. Missed about a month. And then Slade Ciccone is going for Cleveland. Pretty good price tags on both guys here. I didn't get to Eflin coming off of the IL. I think he built up to mid-60s pitches, but I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to say. The props just aren't there for him here. But I do have interest in Ciccone here, who's been pitching deep into games. I think it's at least a decent spot on a small slate. What do you think?
Yeah, Ciccone I've got as the number 4 option with Eflin down near the bottom there. He's the 8th option with only 10 pitchers on the slate. So, yeah, you're right. It's the props obviously aren't there. The strikeout props, of course, I didn't have it ready, but I got it up here. 3.5 strikeouts is his prop. Ciccone 4.5 with heavy juice to the over. So yeah, like you said, I mean it's a limited slate here. We got just 5 games, 7,500. Now I will say I have him as my 4th rated pitcher. But I do think if you are looking to get some leverage against a pitcher, Baltimore probably winds up being your best option on this entire slate. Typically when you do that, like I said all the time on the show, we're just kind of looking for the cheaper pitchers who are going to be higher owned. This is a short slate, so we're going to naturally get some higher ownership. But I think if of the maybe top 4 or 5 pitchers ownership-wise, this might be the one that we could target with the most success.
Yeah, I think on smaller slates, I'm even more apt to do what you're talking about, attacking the more popular pitchers. I think this is a good spot. I also think, we'll talk about Taj Bradley, who I think's ownership is going to be super high. But yeah, I agree with you here. On a smaller slate, I am more apt to do that. We do have all the lineups in except for Tampa's so far. So hopefully we get that before we get to that game. I'm with you. I do like Ciccone, but he's not my favorite. Probably won't have him on my main here. If we're talking about bats, let's start with the O's side. Issue that I have with their lineup right now with Adley hurt is the back third of their lineup is really tough for me to get to. O'Hearn has some pinch hit risk. It's just not a team that have played a ton this season. I will say I do like Holiday, Westberg, Henderson up top. Laureano's been crushing the ball. I think he is going to get traded within the next week. That's also something that we should mention. The next 7 or 8 days stats, to stay on our phones a little longer. We're going to see some scratches, especially on teams like Baltimore, where they do have guys who are going to get traded, like Laureano, like O'Hearn, like Cisetti Mullins, I think are prime candidates to get traded. What do you like offensively on the Baltimore side? It's mainly top 3 and then like Laureano, Cowser for me.
Yeah, I think we're going to be pretty similar there. The Gunnar and Cedric, they always really rate out well, both power and speed. So I like those guys, and I like Holiday also. So those are the 3 main guys I would target. But Westberg, Laureano, Cowser are all in play for me as well on the Baltimore side of it. So and I like this ball. I like the Baltimore bats more so than the Cleveland bats. But if you like the Cleveland side, like Manzardo, I think it's a pretty good price here. First base, 3,500. I think I think that's a pretty good price for a guy with a lot of home run potential in this one. So I do like that. Of course, Jose Ramirez on the Cleveland side. But other than that, to a lesser degree, Santana, Naylor. Naylor's pretty cheap behind the plate, 2,700. Schneemann, 3,100, 2 positions is okay here. A little, kind of not a huge home run threat, but a home run threat nonetheless, and a little bit of speed. So I don't mind that play either on the Cleveland side. But for me, it's the Baltimore bats. I think they're really good in a really good leverage spot tonight. And I agree with what you're saying on the shorter slates. I think those leverage plays are even more important because there's not as many options. And if you get a big chunk of the field is going to be on a certain pitcher, getting on the other side of the pitcher that does get blown up, who's owned when that does happen, really shoots you up the leaderboard.
Yeah, I agree. I think Cleveland's more of picking off a couple bats than wanting to full stack them. Eflin, even though he's not fully back, is probably one of the more talented, or definitely one of the more talented arms on this slate. I think Jose Ramirez, the best single one-off on this slate. He has been red hot of late. Last 10 games, he's got an OPS of nearly 1,200 with 5 bombs. Just really been tearing up this Orioles team all series. I like him, and I like Schneemann a little bit. He's shown some pop, and like you said, Manzardo's super cheap, does have some pinch hit risk, but I think he's fine here. All right, let's keep it going. Let's go to game number 2, to the normal start times. I think the most interesting game of the slate, the Yankees and Toronto. Best series of the slate, this battle in the AL East. If you've been watching all week, it's been really emotional from the Toronto side. They're the big underdogs here. They're probably feeling disrespected from, or by the general public. And for good reason. They're the fucking Blue Jays. But, they have the Yankees in town, so it's a big series for them. We've got Max Fried, who we were going to talk about on our Friday show stats, and then he got scratched, pushed back a couple days with the blister to Tuesday. 9,800 here on the road in Toronto against a team that doesn't strike out. I want to hear your thoughts on Fried here. And then Chris Bassett, we talked about using him on that Friday slate. Gave up 10 hits, but that's all. Had 22 DK. What are your thoughts on the pitching here? Fried 9,800, Bassett 7,800.
Yeah, the Fried, you mentioned the strikeouts with Toronto. They just don't strike out, and that's what's going to kill Fried at this price. I think. I mean, he's going to get a lot of ownership. Obviously, I've got him as the 3rd best option on the slate, but you're looking at just 4.5 strikeouts in the prop market, and that's juiced to the under on Fried. I don't think we've seen a number that low on him all year. 17.5 on the outs. You've got Bassett at 5.5 strikeouts with a pretty even. Like 5.5 is just about the projection. It's kind of juiced on both sides evenly, and 17.5 is the prop on the pitching outs for Bassett. So I do have some interest in Bassett as well. I've got him as the 5th best option. You worry about the walks with Bassett. Don't have that same concern with Fried, but It's just the lack of strikeouts from Toronto kind of leads you maybe at that price tag. Not that there's a whole lot of, that we need to necessarily save a whole lot here on this slate, but the 9,800 price tag with Fried, I think we have some better options on the slate. But I mean, pure pitcher, he's probably the best pitcher on the slate, probably talent-wise the best pitcher on the slate. Can he get those strikeouts? I think the upside's kind of capped on Fried.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot, right? Because on a larger slate, I would just X out Fried here because of the lack of upside. On a slate where I don't really like a lot of the pitching options, I'm going to keep him in my pool just because, if he gets 18 or something here, that could be all you need. And there's plenty of cheap bats. Like we'll talk about Luzardo, who I think is by far the best option here. But besides that, I think the rest of the arms have significant question marks. So I'm going to keep Fried in the pool. I don't love him. I'm going to be under the field for sure. But I think, like you said, it's more of a floor safe click here than anything else. Bassett's going to be volatile in this spot. We talked yesterday on the show stats about jamming these Yankees left-handed bats against Max Scherzer because of the huge splits left and right. Bassett's kind of the same deal. He's going to walk lefties. He's going to give up power to lefties. And a matchup with this Yankees lineup is about the worst in baseball that you can line up for a guy who struggles with left-handed power. So I've got the Yankees as my top stack on the slate. I think that's going to be at least a little bit contrarian as everyone runs to play the Rays. I'm okay with that. Since the pitchers are trending on the cheaper side stats, we're not going to be heavy on Fried here. We can pay up for these Yankees bats. So I really like the Yankees here. They hit a bunch of bombs yesterday. I think they got fairly unlucky to not score more off of Scherzer and Toronto. So I've got the Yankees as my number one stack, mainly sticking in the top six here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lefties in the top six with Aaron Judge, the non-lefty there. So I just think it's a tough spot for Bassett. Yes, he's pitched well at home. He's pitched decently against the Yankees, but on a short slate where I don't love a ton, I'm going to lean into a split like that. What are your thoughts on the bats here?
Yeah, I like what you said there. As far as those Yankee lefty bats, I would agree with you. And I think, look, if you don't like Baltimore, which I've noticed a couple of people in the chat are a little gun shy with Baltimore. They've burned this all in the past. I get it.
Yeah.
But the Yankees, I think, would be the next best option, if not better. Depends on your opinion. But as far as a leverage against a pitcher, I think they're in a similar spot here. Mm-hmm. And I mean, of course, I do trust Yankee bats more than maybe I trust the Baltimore bats. But hey, look, the Yankees have let us down too. Right before that All-Star break, they were a little disappointing. They will pop up a lot as the strong team against leverage team against pitching, because they've got so much power in that lineup. They've got speed in that lineup as well. And when they do face a pitcher who's going to have some ownership, they're always going to be on. So they're always one of the teams that show up on that high leverage versus starting pitching. But I think they're a good option here. Certainly better than the Toronto bats. I'm not even looking at Toronto bats for this one against Fried. And what I really like what you were talking about there is with Fried, because I kind of alluded to the fact that he might be the best pitcher IRL on this slate, which goes a long way when you've only got 10 pitchers on the slate, and none of them are really all that dominant. I agree with you. Sanchez is probably Luzardo is probably the number one pitcher here on the slate, but easily Fried throws up 22, even 18, like you said, is a possibility. He could throw 21. What's 21, 22 points? He could easily do that, and be in the nuts with at 9,800. You could easily fit all these other lineups. So I agree. You want him in the mix. I also agree with you. I wouldn't necessarily go over. So if we're looking at like 30% on Saber, that would kind of be my target number as 150 build. I wouldn't go more than that, but I do agree with your take there, where Fried doesn't necessarily have to be dominant like he would be on a 12 game slate. But so I think he's definitely in play. But I like the Yankees bats. Judge, obviously, I don't think it matters what hand the pitcher is throwing from. But you got Jazz and Cody Bellinger on that left side. I really like quite a bit. I like Grisham, like Dominguez. So there's a bunch of bats here on the Yankee side that I like. The only bat who's not going to rate out well is going to be Peraza for me.
Yeah, full agree with that. We just got the Rays lineup, so when we get to that game, we can talk about their lineup. Let's go to Philly. We got Red Sox and Phillies here. Good pitching matchup. Jesus Luzardo, my guy, going up against Lucas Giolito, who was pretty slow coming off the injury, but the velo's coming up, stats, and he's had a pretty good run here. Had a poor outing last time out, but has been good over the last 8 to 10 starts. Where did you end up on these two arms here, Boston, Philly?
Yeah, so I mean, I just mentioned it. Luzardo is my number one pitcher on this entire slate. I think he'll probably be the number one pitcher. I don't think there's a doubt as far as ownership goes tonight as well. So what do we have? 46% over on Saber. Might even be. I think there's a good chance it's a lot higher than that. So, he's the number one pitcher on the slate without a doubt. 7.5 Ks. You don't get a lot of 7.5 strikeout props, and now we've got one on a short slate with the best pitcher in Fried only at 4.5 strikeouts. Right. So this is an unusual situation. I think Luzardo gets a ton of the ownership, at least 50%. 7.5 Ks, like I said, under is juice. 17.5 is his outs prop. Now you get to Giolito. 5.5 is his number in the prop market for Ks, and 17.5 for outs. His K number is juiced a bit to the under. I've only got I've got Giolito down as the 7th best option, believe it or not. And what's hurting him here for me is what we're expecting as far as walks and earned runs in this one. So he is expected to give up some runs to the Philly offense. There is some upside though. I think the upside here with Gio, even though he's rated 7th in my model, I'm going to have him in there just because I think there is some strikeout upside on a slate that doesn't necessarily have a ton of big strikeout pitchers. I think there's a possibility for Gio, but it's going to be very low owned. I don't know where do we have him at 15% for in Saber as far as ownership goes. I don't know if you guys are hearing the thunder going on right now. It's pretty bad out there, but but Gio is just 15%, and I think that numbers, it's close to being right. I would probably be just a little bit under that, but I do think he's got some upside on this slate. I think, and then when you look at the bats, we've got, I'm going to lean obviously the Philly bats here over Boston bats. We're going to probably shy away from these Boston bats. They will, of course, show up pretty heavily on that leverage for starting pitching because we've got the highest owned starting pitching going against them. There's a lot of situations where I just absolutely would not go against that pitcher. I don't know if I mean, if you're playing 150, I think throwing a few Boston stacks in there is worth it. To be honest with you, maybe even playing a 20, just one Boston stack, just to get it in there. If I was playing 20 max, I think.
We just saw it on the early slate with the Giants against Strider. These small slates, it doesn't take much. Even if Luzardo has a decent outing and only goes 5 innings. We literally just saw it. The bullpen for the Braves just gave up 6 runs in 3 innings. So I think that's definitely viable.
And that does not mean you could play Boston against Luzardo in your same lineup. So
no. That's not what we're talking about.
Because I'm waiting for that question.
I'm on both pitchers here. I love Luzardo. I'm debating locking him, honestly, on the slate. Just a pitcher that I really believe in long term. I think Boston is much, much worse against left-handed pitching in the split. Luzardo's kind of come on tough times here, 5.59 ERA since June 1st, but he's been the unluckiest pitcher based on estimators over that time frame. He's got a 3.31 xFIP, 3.2 FIP, mainly stats because he's got a 400 batting average on balls in play over the last 2 months, which is just insanely unlucky. Pretty much the unluckiest pitcher during that stretch. So I think it's a good spot for him to bounce back. Like you said, the strikeout stuff is there. He's got by far the best strikeout stuff on this slate, 28% strikeout rate. I'm kind of hoping that, more people look at his box scores and see that he hasn't been great and don't shove this spot because I'm going to. I really like Luzardo here. And then I'm going to play Giolito basically the same way that I always play him. I'm going to play both sides of this. I think that, like you said, he's got the strikeout upside on a small slate where I don't love the guys below him. Like we'll talk about Bradley, but I think Bradley comes in like 50+%. And I think Giolito's got plenty of chances to outscore Taj Bradley here, despite the tougher matchup. The Phillies top three, obviously juggernaut, but after that, there might not be a lineup in the league that falls off quicker than the top three of the Phillies. Castellanos, Realmuto have not been good this year. And then Marsh, Kepler, Sosa, Stott, just really, really not impact hitters. So I'm kind of buying into the increased velocity and the success that Giolito's had over the last couple months. He's pitched really well outside of Fenway too. That small park that he has said that he doesn't love. So yeah, I love the ownership discount between Giolito and Bradley. We're seeing 47% to 13 to 14%. I'm going to kind of even those out stats here. I think that he's got a decent chance to outscore Bradley. I don't think that 1,000 means a ton on this slate overall. So I'm going to be over the field on Giolito, and then in non-Giolito lineups, I really like the top three for the Phillies. I'm going to be playing them as one-offs, two-mans, three-mans. Don't really love the rest of the lineup here. So yeah, I guess this is my first contrarian spot. I like Giolito more than the field does here.
It's not a terrible take. Obviously we'll see what happens here, but and we'll get to Bradley in a second. We'll talk about that, but on a slate like this, it's not going to take. Everyone's got Bradley rated higher, which is why his ownership's going to be where it is. But I think you're right in the sense that if you take that ratio of Bradley to Gio ownership, is he 3x? Is Bradley going to beat him, 3x of the time? Probably not. I don't even think probably. I think definitely not. Right.
A quarter of the field stacked against Taj Bradley 5 days ago.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is, this partially goes into what when you're looking at for anyone who is not familiar with RPS and the boom sheet and all, and we keep talking about this leverage against starting pitcher. It's on the boom sheet, but that's kind of the thing, especially on a larger slate that we're looking at on that boom sheet is, you're going to get guys like Bradley. They're going to just get high ownership just because of the slate that you're on. And it's not always necessarily talent. Obviously, they're playing a pretty crappy team, but a lot of times it's just how the slate breaks on how the ownership is going to pan out, and it's not always like Fried's obviously the best pitcher here, not going to be the highest owned when you could fit him in. You know what I mean? So sometimes you got to get out of your DFS head and just be like, hey, it's a short slate. Like, who's the better pitcher here, or who has at least the better upside? And when you just look at it from what we're projecting on ownership, like I said, you're saying 50%. I don't know if he gets to 50, but if he's in the 40s and Gio's down at 15, we're saying he's 3x better on this slate. I don't know if he is.
Yeah, I don't do this with pitchers that I respect as like studs. I do think, and this is a good segue to go into that game. White Sox, Rays, we got John Cannon against Taj Bradley. Bradley is not the type of arm that I'm super comfortable laying into massive chalk using. There's a bunch of guys like that in the league. He's just a perfect example of a guy who is mega volatile, especially in this park. Don't get me wrong, I'm playing plenty of Bradley, but I think I'm the under, and I do want to talk about using some White Sox secondary stacks in non-Bradley lineups. We've seen that work a ton, even with this White Sox. This White Sox team won the 222 with a 5-man going away on Monday night. They have been hitting a bit better of late. They're more patient since they added Talkman, Benintendi, called up their top prospect, Colson Montgomery, who had his first bomb last night. Luis Roberts starting to hit it a little bit more. I don't think that they are like Rockies level of bad. And in this park, I really think that I'm going to be playing probably more White Sox than I'm comfortable here. I just think on a 5-gamer, these guys in this park shouldn't be 3% owned. What do you think about this game?
I agree with you, and we liked, at least on the boom sheet on Monday, liked the White Sox as a leverage play, and of course, they're always going to show up as a strong leverage play
because everyone plays pitchers against
because pitchers going to be high rated against them. Exactly right. I mentioned this before. I don't know if it was with you on the show. I think it might have been with DC, but when you are looking at that sheet and you're looking at those leverage plays, like when I do it, I'll look at that leverage or the tournament edge, which is similar to leverage, but it's really looking at the ownership of the particular player relative to what their boom score is. And of course, the White Sox here are going to, a couple of them at least, are going to be pretty high on that list. What I look at when I'm looking at the report and I'm building a lineup is, do I have a lot of guys at the elite and the high and the elite level that are also high leverage versus starting pitcher? What that tells me is, okay, they're facing a pitcher with high ownership, but we're also projecting a decent probability for home runs, stolen bases, because that's really what the boom report, it looks at RBIs and runs too, but really focusing on the big scoring stats. So oftentimes, that's why I said the Yankees a lot of times will show up kind of heavy as a leverage versus starting pitching because they do have such good home run hitting and some speed in that lineup. So with all that said, the White Sox today, you've got a couple of guys in that lineup with Luis Robert and Vargas, who I really liked on Monday night and came through. Those two guys, I think it's more of a secondary stack, though, which I think you mentioned.
Yeah,
I like those guys as secondary stacks. I'd be careful really playing full stacks here. But Tampa's that's the stack everyone's going to be going towards tonight. It's understandable. I've got him as the highest rated stack as well. Camporeale, that lineup's out now. So I think I have the right lineup here. Camporeale, Aranda, and Simpson are the three guys really rated high with Josh Lowe as well. All rated really high. And Luis Robert, just 3,500 out in the outfield, fits in nice if you're looking for that kind of piece on the White Sox side. And Vargas, only 3,100 if you're looking for that kind of if you're looking for a savings there. So almost stacking this game. Whenever I can stack a game, I mentioned that too. I kind of like it. If I could take, if Tampa's the main stack, taking them with the White Sox I kind of like that a little bit.
Yeah. Especially in a park like this where
exactly. Like I said,
early,
it's boring.
The ball's flying, it's humid.
You get one of those days. I was at the game. I mean, it totally reversed. When I was there, like the ball was carrying early and then the wind reversed. You get that situation where you get the wind just starts blowing out. For some reason, it's been hot as hell here and it's pouring right now, but that should be gone by game time. Yeah, I like it. I don't mind that. I think that's a cool build on if you're going to take the highest owned bats and then pair them up with one of the lowest owned secondary stacks. I kind of like that, and you're getting leverage against Taj Bradley. I like that play.
Yeah, this isn't something that I would do on a 15-game slate, playing 20 lineups. But I think this is a unique slate in that I think we've got some fairly flimsy chalk, I'll say, which is not something that I usually worry about. But on a 5-gamer, I think it's a unique spot to be different. I'm with you. Rays best on paper against Jonathan Cannon. We've got Caballero in there over Ha-Seong Kim, who got hurt again. That sucks. He had just came back. So it's Caballero over him. I think he's the best part-time player, like as far as value. Dude, the guy has 34 steals and has played
it's stolen bases. Yeah, you're going to want him in. He'll fit fine, and obviously a lot of people are going to be 5-man stacking him. But
yeah, I think he's an interesting play down in the 9 hole. Probably going to get overlooked a bit here on a small slate. I don't mind it as much, and if he gets on, he is going. So,
and not cheap. He's 4K. It's not.
Yeah, no one wants to pay 4K for a 9-hole guy. But if you're stacking the Rays, they're probably going to turn this lineup over a bunch of times. I will say my only real issue with the Rays is the White Sox bullpen sneakily been really good lately. Stats. What did I put in the playbook here? 4th best ERA over the last month, 2.68 ERA for the White Sox bullpen. We saw it last night the Rays scored early and then just got shut down. So, it's just not a slam dunk spot for what I think is going to be by far the highest owned team here. So it's kind of why I lean the Yankees. I'm willing to take a shot on a team that's got a ton of power over the Rays, but totally get why the Rays are the highest owned team here. All right, let's go to last game. A's and Texas. This series has been frustrating all week for me. I played Jacob Lopez on Monday, who was looking fine and then got shelled late. I was low on DeGrom last night, who just absolutely mowed after a leadoff bomb. Haven't gotten this series right. I haven't got the series right all week. So, of course, we get Patrick Corbin and JP Sears to end us off here. Stats. Talk about the pitching here. Sears is pretty cheap, 6,300.
Yeah, I mean, he's cheap for a reason, I guess, right? Both these don't love either pitcher here, but almost all these guys are in play just on such a short slate. But Sears just 4.5 Ks in the prop market, juice to the under, with Corbin very similar, juice to the under as well on his 4.5 Ks, with Sears 15.5 outs and Corbin up there at 17.5 outs. So I've actually got Corbin just right at right above Giolito, believe it or not. But the upside is still there with Gio, way more here than Corbin. You just don't have the strikeout upside that you do with a Patrick Corbin. But on this slate, I do think certainly on 150 builds, I do think he's in play on a slate like this. Probably wouldn't make it if I was just playing 20 lineups, but the offenses here, I think, are what we really want to look at, and I would say more so the Texas side of this game I like quite a bit. Seager, Garcia, Langford, pretty much this entire lineup outside of Doran and maybe the catcher Heim. But outside of that, I really like this lineup. I think you get some cheap options. Hellman at 2,500, Jung at 34. You've got Freeman's only 2,400 with the double position eligibility. But on the A side, you've got a min cost. I don't know. Again, unfortunately, it's only a 5-game slate, but man, we got a min cost outfielder at 2K and Colby Thomas.
That's our top.
Yeah, I think he's really if you're going to play a super expensive lineup, I don't mind that all. I don't mind it as a one-off either. It's got power, has some speed as well. That's not a bad little punt play in the outfield for 2K.
Yeah, so I like the A's one-offs here, like you said, just kind of power hunting against Corbin, who has given up power like it's his job for the last couple of years. Rooker, his price has finally come down a bit. I think he's by far the best play here. Rooker, Langoliers, Kurtz, and the free guy, I think, are the plays here. On the A's side, you can play some Wilson, I guess. Texas, man, this might be the first show that we've had multiple disagreements on. It's fun. I don't like Texas here. I like JP Sears. Look at this Texas lineup. They got Michael Hellman, Cody Freeman, Zeke Duran. I mean, those are 3 outs right there. Sears, he hasn't been that bad over the last month. He's a higher strikeout arm on the season than Taj Bradley. He's a higher strikeout arm than Slade Ciccone. He's got similar estimators to those two. And goes into Texas, the best pitching spot on the slate. And Texas has been horrible against lefties. 28th in weighted runs created plus, 27th in ISO last 30. It's been a bottom 3 team in baseball in the split against lefties. The best pitching environment on the slate. He's projected to basically be unowned as the cheapest pitcher on a small slate in a good spot. This is kind of what I meant, stats, with kind of smoothing out, the Giolito, Bradley, and the third cheap guy for me is going to be Sears. The Rangers are just a team that I want to attack with left-handed pitching. It didn't work. Well, it worked for 4.5 innings on Monday. I'm just going to continue to do it on a small slate. I'm never playing JP Sears at home in Sacramento, but as a fly ball arm in this park, I think he's at least reasonable. Wouldn't be playing him on a 14-game slate, but this is just kind of how I'm playing this tonight. I'm going to be more balanced down low at pitcher, just because the volatility of Bradley, I think, is scary enough that I think it's worth at least getting over on these other guys. Whether or not that's the right thing to do, we'll find out in a couple hours. If you're not on Sears, I do agree. Seager, Semien, Elbombi, Josh Young, Wyatt Langford, they're all super cheap. Langford, I think, probably my favorite of the group. I'm going to bump him up. Every time he goes down to the 6 hole, his projection is too low. But yeah, I agree. Hyman probably the worst place here.
Which was it? I'm sorry. Who did you say was the worst play?
No, I think Wyatt Langford's the best play, even though he's down a little further in the lineup. Him and Seager.
Yeah, no, they're definitely up at the top there with Garcia for me, for sure. No, I was saying on a slate like this, if you are an MME player, and let's say you're taking your point of view here, so you kind of let's say you want to lock in Luzardo, and if I was a 20 max, I could certainly see this. I might not do it in 150, but let's say you're 20 max and you really just like Luzardo, then I think, and from the sounds of it, you kind of agree with me. Then I think I want to get really diverse here with the rest of the pitching. Maybe everyone but Cannon.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. In my 20, I'm probably gonna lock Luzardo and just kind of spread out the rest. I just don't have a warm and fuzzy on 50% on Taj Bradley, and I do think that these other guys can match him. So it's not that I'm coming here saying that JP Sears is an all-star and he's going to crush here. I just do have my concerns about Bradley being so high owned.
No, it's just a short slate. Again, it may not take all that much to win from one of these pitchers. So I agree with that, and I always say this. I've talked about it on every sport, every time chance I get. To me, it's like a lever, and so if I'm gonna lock in on one, if I get super narrow somewhere, and if it's gonna be with one pitcher, then I want to loosen it up with the rest, right? So I get tight here, I got to lift it here and loosen that up. So that's how I look at it. So I think this is a perfect slate to do something like that. I would agree with you.
Yeah, and I'm feeling a little frisky going to happy after this. So we'll see what happens. All right, we talked for 45 minutes about the 5 games. Let's do a quick recap here. Stats. Yeah. We'll start with you. What are your overall just pitching thoughts on this 5-gamer here?
Yeah, I like your logic there. I mean, I do think Luzardo is the number one pitcher on the slate. So if I was going to get overweight any of these pitchers, I think it would be Luzardo. I do agree with you. I also agree, with the maybe getting a little bit more diverse. So I think the pitchers like Bradley, who are going to be high owned, I don't mind getting underneath on them and then lifting some of these guys up at the bottom, like a Bassett, maybe Ciccone, pretty much all these guys. Gio, like you said, I think it's not going to take all that much. They're not going to be super high because you're going to get all the ownership coming in on Luzardo and Bradley. And if we're going to get over on Luzardo, then we want to get under on Bradley, lift these other guys, maybe get to market, or if not, 20-25% on a Fried, I think is okay. But I think that's the I agree with you. I think Luzardo is the clear number one on this slate, and then it's everybody else. Although I do like Bradley. Also, I think your logic is spot on here from a game theory standpoint.
Yeah, this is just a game theory slate for me. I totally agree that Bradley is by far the second best on paper numbers play. Let's do stacks real quick, and then we do have time for a dong draft. Who are your top 2 stacks here on the night?
Yeah, so I mean, Tampa's. I still like Tampa. I know they're going to be chalky, but I like the Yankee stacks here. So I like a little bit of leverage that we're going to get with the Yankees, and so I do like Yankee stacks as a good. I don't know how contrarian, but a little bit contrarian.
Yeah, the Yanks are my number 1 here. I do like Tampa, but I'm going to go with the White Sox minis against Taj Bradley. Just the kind of way that I'm playing the slate. I don't mean, you've done a lot of shows with me. I don't usually play this way. I just think it's a context of the slate thing. So I'll go with the Yankees as my top stack. I really like in your non-Taj Bradley lineups, getting some White Sox in that park. All right, let's do the dong draft. I almost got one on Friday with our guy Adrian Del Castillo, who did have a big game though. The guy from the D-backs, min price on Friday. But let's do the dong draft, and you can have the first pick here.
I don't know if I got any on Friday. I was checking. I'm like, I don't.
You had shit. What did I just do? You had Toglia, Kurtz.
Yeah, he didn't get. Yeah, Kurtz didn't get one. No.
Torkelson. I had Teoscar Hernandez, who I don't think has a hit since the break. Czech Caglione, who just cost me a bunch of money on the early slate, and then Del Castillo, who did have a big game, but did not hit a home run.
All right, let's see. We've got. Let's keep the theme, or my theme that hasn't worked, but we'll keep the 3,500 or less. I'll go for my one. For those who don't know, we play this this draft, the dong draft, and if you pick a player at 3,500 or less, you get 1.5 times for it. So I'm going to go with Manzardo.
All right, Manzardo 1.5. I'm going to go. If I've got this take with the White Sox, I can't believe I'm dying on the White Sox hill tonight. I'll go with Luis Robert, who has been good lately. Right at that 3,500 price point will be my pick. Do I stick? Yeah, I'm going to get one of these two guys is going deep. I'll also go with the guy that you mentioned earlier, Miguel Vargas, for the White Sox. So with my third one later, I definitely have to pick someone from a different team in case they get shut out by Taj Bradley.
Yeah. I'll go with one. I'll go one cheap, and then I'll take. Do I take the same? I'll take Max Kepler. He comes in at 3,400.
Hit a bomb last night, I believe.
And then I'm going to go with one over the 3,500. I'm going to go with I'm going against your JP Sears selection, and I'm going to take Seager.
All right. I'll stay in the game that same game and go with Brent Rooker, 4,400, hitting second against Patrick Corbin. All right, we did all 5 games. We went in depth on each one. I actually like mixing in these shows stats on the smaller slates where we can kind of go into some game theory, how we're constructing lineups, stuff like that. But yeah, we will be back tomorrow. I believe it's JT, and is it you on the show tomorrow? It might be DC on the show tomorrow. I'm not sure.
Don't believe it's me.
I will not be on Friday. I don't think Stats will be on Friday. We'll probably have some subs. It'll be DC and TBD. Everyone's got an acronym at RPS. So it'll be Draft Sheet and TBD on Friday. Stats and I will be sweating our friends in the golf final up in Minnesota. All right, we will see you all tomorrow. We do have the early lock. Just keep that in mind. It's 6:40, not 7 today. So. Good luck tonight, and hope Taj Bradley doesn't shove it right up my ass.